Hello and welcome to what's new in version 8.6.4 of Infiniti. This quick presentation will give you a quick glimpse at what are the major new features that have appeared in Infiniti between 8.6.0 and 8.6.4. So let's get stuck into it. So the first thing that is probably immediately obvious to people who may be familiar with the Produce homepage in Infiniti is that there are two new sections for forms that are assigned to me. Forms that are assigned to me and forms that are assigned to my group. So that basically creates a distinction between what items are actually my items individually that I've got to get to work on, and what items have been assigned to my team. So it's not as important. I see these as high as the ones that I've actually got to work on. So any items that have workflow items specifically assigned to you will appear here, as well as any items you have saved in progress will appear in this top section. And down here, only items which are workflow items that have been assigned to your group. There's been a few changes to do with being able to view workflow and manage workflow. One of those is that there is a new button up here. This is opt-in. So at a manage level, you can decide whether or not this button should actually appear. But if you want it to appear, this is how it will look to users. And when they click on it, they can get a snapshot of all forms for which they have been a part of. So say I submitted my project and it was off being approved by an approver or something like that. It was basically somewhere off in the organization, and I wanted to know what was the progress of that. I could have a look in here, and I can see that so I've started two forms here. This one is currently sitting with, well, this one is sitting with me, and this one is actually sitting with my group. So those are actually the two that you could see on that first page. But I can also see what has happened to it. So say this one, I can see that it's basically been bouncing back and forth between me, the admin, and this other user. So this gives people a bit of an idea of what's going on in the system with their things that they've sent off. And similarly, if I had logged in as this person here, I could also look at this form. So it's basically for anybody who's been involved with it at some point. They can pop in and they can see what's happened to it and where it's up to. So no more people just submitting things off into the ether and hoping that they'll get completed at some point. Now this snapshot is also available for administrators in Manage. So if I jump over into Manage, I can jump to the workflow page. I can, as usual, am able to see what projects are going on, but I can also jump into them and see the process that has occurred with those workflows. So that information is available to both administrators and people using it. The other big thing that has been requested a bit and we've finally answered is many people have wanted the ability to be able to cancel items that have been assigned to them for whatever reason. Again, this is controllable. So not everybody gets it. You'll only get it if a designer has deemed that a project in a particular state is able to do this. So I am able to click on this little button here and go cancel. So that would cancel this workflow in progress. You know, it got rejected, so I'm giving up. I'm done with that. I won't continue working on it. Another useful feature in 8.6.4 to do with managing your workflow is that we've now got the ability to define due dates. So at the moment, these two workflows assigned to me, they don't have any due dates. So It's just like it's been in previous versions of Infiniti. I can get around to that whenever I want. If we want to actually define that those things have a due date, I'm going to jump into design. I'll open up. So those projects are currently. Let's put on here. So if the project goes into the approval state, I can define that it is due 2 days after it has been assigned to you. These can be working days only or real life days. Similarly, you can also define a date. So I'll say if it gets to that state, it must be actioned within 2 days. So I'll save that and I'll quickly run it again. So we'll ignore these fields for now, and I'll submit our project. So that's been sent off to my approver. So I'll just quickly log in as that guy. And you can now see, so when I've logged in as this person, he's got this one that we've just assigned, and it's got a due date. So that lets you know, at quick glance, how urgent your tasks are. It also helps you that if projects have a due date, they will appear higher than the other tasks you've got assigned, and also this table will be sorted by the due date. So your most important tasks, the ones that are most urgent to get done now, they will appear at the top. So that helps with some workflow items. Let's have a look now at a couple of the changes to some of the question types. One that has been asked about a bit is with the charts. It's been requested quite a lot that we support multi-series charts, so that is now available. You can see here that this chart has currently got 2 series on it. That's easy to add another one. We can click Add Series. I'll give it a similarly boring name of Series 3, and let's make Series 3 gold. You can define, obviously here, it's how you actually match it up to the data, but I'm not going to match it up to the data because this is just a quick review of what's available. You can see that I've now got a 3rd series in my chart there. So that should provide the ability to do some complex charting there. The user prompt has a new data type, so this joins the existing data types, and that is a data type of currency. So when you define a currency, you can define the number of decimal places as well as the type of symbol that you use for that currency. I might just stick with a $sign, as that's a bit easier. You can also choose whether or not to right align that field. So let's leap into the project and see how that looks. So I'll open a new one. Here's our currency question. So I can type some numbers in. As soon as I leave that field, it will update it appropriately. So I leave, and you see that the $sign's been added as well as those 2 decimal points. If I click back in, the $sign disappears, so that removes confusion for what's going on, whether or not I need to type that in or not, and I can edit it, and it's now updated that field. So that will be useful for anybody who is creating projects that require monetary amounts to be entered. A new type of action. We've got an action called an Infiniti user action. This allows you to manage your users in the system from a project level. So for example, say you have a registration form. This action will allow you to capture users' registration information and then will create them as a user in the system. So in my example I've set here, I've asked the user for a first name, a last name, and an email. I'm passing that into the action, and I'm defining that I want the password reset, and that the user should reset their password on the next login. There's a bunch of properties that you can define against the user, so it's not just limited to those 3 simple ones. You can define a lot about the address of that user. Let's go ahead and see how that works. So I'll leap into this one that I've prepared earlier, so this project here. So if we see here, we've got a new user, first name Brad, last name Hoff, email bradhoff@intelledox.com. So when we submit this project, that action will execute and it will create the user in the system. So that user has now been created, and I've got an email. I set this email up in Infiniti here. See, this email got sent here. It is just referencing the output username and password, just so that the user gets an email and they actually know how to log in. I haven't defined much in this email, just what the username is and what the password is. Made the username the same as the email address, which is a good way to ensure that it's unique for an individual. So now, yeah, that person can use that password to log in. So let's do that. I'll log out, type in that email address, and I'll paste that password. And the user's asked to change their password on it, so it's something that they'll actually remember instead of that weird thing that we just sent. And here we go. That user's in Infiniti. They're up and ready to run. So there's no manual process of managing a user there. The Infiniti user action can also be used for managing existing users. So it doesn't just need to be for creation. Perhaps, for example, you might want to create a form for people to reset their passwords or update their details, things like that, if you don't actually want them to do it via the profile page in Produce. So they can do that via a form instead. Next up, we've got minimum and maximum repeating rows for repeating sections and pages. They can be defined dynamically. So to demonstrate that, I'll just add a new question type of, we'll call that minimum rows, give it a default value of 2, and then I'll add a section to the next page, a column, and just a question on it. Set that to be a repeating one, and I'll set a question reference for the minimum rows to be that minimum rows input. So now if I start the project, so we've got a minimum rows of 2 here. So if I try to submit this with only 1 row there, nope, that's an error. I haven't added enough rows. If I go back and I update that to 4, and now I've got 2, try and submit it, nope, I need 4. And as soon as I have 4, I can submit that. So normally you probably wouldn't actually have that as a particular question of how many rows would you like for your minimum section, but obviously you can define logic that would determine what the minimum or the maximum of a repeating section or page would be. So that can be useful. Next feature is a simple one. If I had come in previous versions of Infiniti, I'd typed something, been working away, and then I closed my browser or I went somewhere else, I would lose my work. Now in version 8.6.4, there's a warning before you do that. So that's quite useful for if you've ever had the experience of people losing their work by navigating away while using the form. So I've typed something in, I'll type in something else, and then I'll leave. And yeah, I get a warning to make sure that I definitely want to leave and that I'll be losing my work. The last feature I want to show you is something called matching project versions. So I'll show you where the option is first. That is if we go into Manage to where we publish the project. So this Publish Project page. I'll go to the Publish Options tab. And here's our new option, Match Project Version when loading in progress forms. It's currently off, which is the default behavior and the way that all projects in previous versions currently behave. They don't match the project version. So what does matching the project version actually mean? Well, I'll do a quick demonstration of how it works now. So if we start this workflow project, we enter in some information. And we submit that. If the next user, when they see that form, let's go do that. So we'll go log in as the next user. So this is the one that's just been sent. You can see that Gary Jones is in there. So they obviously get the next step in the workflow. But what if before that second person had loaded the project up, somebody had come into design and changed the project somehow? So say for example we realized that that repeating section wasn't doing much for our project and we removed it. Then whatever the person in the next step of the workflow loads up, they load up the latest version of the project. So as you can see, they've loaded up that workflow and the repeating section is gone. So that's good. It basically means that whenever somebody is doing their work, they will get the latest version of the project. They can continue working on the latest version of the project. However, sometimes there might be circumstances where you want the form to appear exactly the same to everybody in the workflow. For example, maybe there's an approval process and it actually matters what people have entered to what fields, and the questions have to have been exactly the same, things like that. Or possibly it's for the actual generation of the document. So the document needs to be generated exactly the same at each step of the workflow, even if somebody's edited it in the meantime. So we can do that by changing that option. So if I now tick Match Project Version on, I'll need to be logged in as the administrator to do that. So go there. That on. I'll go back to produce and log out again, log back in as that user. Alright, so now when I log up the exact same workflow, you can see that that repeating section is there. So the person loading up the next step in the workflow is seeing the exact same form that the first person filled in. This concept also applies to saved in progress answer files or answer files that you save at a generation. They retain the version of the project that they were using at the time. So any changes made in design after that don't get updated as long as you have the match project version option checked on. Checked off, yeah, it will behave as it used to and always use the latest version. As always, you can get more information about version 8.6.4 by going to our support site and checking out what's new in version 8.6.4. I've covered some of the bigger features across a few versions from 8.6.1 to 8.6.4. There's a bunch more little things in there. I just picked out some of the ones that I thought might be more interesting. So certainly on that site there's more information about what these features are and how they work. So by all means check that out. That's all I was going to demonstrate today, so thank you very much for watching.